Today I'm going to show you how you could take a simple solid piece of wood and put a few small incisions in it, and it can break the laws of physics like a freak of nature. I'm going to dive into why this happens and some design features you can use it for. Hope you get some inspiration. Let's go. Okay, so I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can here. These kerfs, these small through cuts in the wood, they essentially have a very tight gap. Now what happens when you bend the piece backwards or forwards, whatever you want to call it, or in half, what happens to those gaps is they widen. I'm going to show you a couple images for some calipers to give you some kind of context.
So under no stretch, the kerf measures 0.51 millimeters. When you stretch it all the way out, well, it widens to 1.14 millimeters.
So essentially what's happening is that this portion of the wood is being expanded, or has the ability to be expanded, by around 51%, right?
Wrong. It's actually 123%. You'll see how I made that mistake in a second.
I'll show you some numbers. Check this out. Basically, it started with a single kerf of a laser kerf there at 0.51 millimeters, right? About half a millimeter. It was then able to stretch to 1.14 millimeters, giving you about a 51% increase.
Yep, nope, still made the mistake. You think I'd get it right by now, but nope.
Of just that section alone. That one section is able to stretch out
123%. Nailed it.
Imagine being able to stretch all these components across the entire surface, which gives you a piece that can actually just double up on itself to make something like this. That's cool, and that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm going to show you some ideas. I'm going to show you some different hinges that I found online. I like this straight hinge because, well, it's kind of no fuss, and it does work the best for me with what I'm trying to put together, and I hope you get some inspiration like I said. Let's go, check this stuff out. Also, stay tuned for this. I'm going to do a gap test of various different spacings between these lines, and I think you know which one's the most flexible.
Now let me tell you guys, you're in for a real treat because I'm filming a computer screen for this next section to show you how you can alternate 3 lines and 2 lines separated by about 1/4 inch, and then separate those groupings by 1/16, 1/8, 1/4, and 3/8 of an inch to give you varied results of strength and flexibility. So once everything looks good, we're going to run the laser. This is 1/8 of an inch Baltic birch, cut at around 40% power on a 150 watt laser. I get a lot of questions about this. This is the Laguna EX. It is 150 watt, and I love this thing. Can't speak more highly about it. I'll put links to it down below. It's not a sponsored post, but I'm just telling you this thing works like a dream. Okay, with our spacing test done on 1/8 of an inch wood and 1/4 of an inch wood, let's go ahead and see the results. Well, the really big gaps, well, I can tell you right now, it's pretty stiff. It does bend a little bit, but not so much. Now we go down to the 1/4 inch gaps, and yeah, it bends a little bit more, still has some pretty rigid strength. This is, well, the 1/8 of an inch gaps, and this is pretty nice. I would use this for most applications because you're actually able to get this thing over to touch itself, but I wouldn't go any further than that. Now, if you're gonna space these things out 1/16 of an inch, my goodness, this is almost like a ribbon. Although the structural integrity of it is a little weaker, it does flex quite a bit. Okay, moving over to the 1/4 of an inch test, and the same gaps are there, but the material is twice as thick. Well, the first one, it didn't flex at all. The second one, that's a, well, 1/4 of an inch. Yeah, it looks pretty good, but it's still pretty strong, not able to flex too much. Now here's a comparison of the 1/8 of an inch spacing between the 1/8 of an inch wood and the 1/4 of an inch wood, and the difference is pretty significant. And of course, the 1/16 of an inch spacing, still able to roll this thing up with the 1/8 of an inch wood, and the 1/4 of an inch, well, I can barely get the ends to touch, and that's respectable because the material is twice as thick, but these things are pretty darn cool. So let's watch them in slow motion, shall we? Now, I'm sure this is super satisfying to some and maybe quite annoying to others, but who knows? Either way, let's talk about other shapes you can actually carve into wood that will actually make them bend like fabric. Here are a few different examples I found online. I'll put the source imagery down below for you to check out the site, but I like the straight cuts because, yeah, it can do stuff like this.
That's so crazy. Anyway, I've got 4 products I've developed for this, and they're gonna be surrounding me here, and each one of those is gonna be time-stamped at the beginning of its assembly instructions. Just some quick instructions, kind of give you a heads up if you wanna see how they go together, especially for those of you that have already purchased these already. Here's the best way to put them together, and I hope you enjoy. So my method of choice to put all this together is Starbond's Medium with their activator. I do have a coupon code for you down below to save some money, so check it out. First up, the phone stand. So here's my take on the foldable living hinge phone stand. You may have seen these around. This one has a unique feature where it basically puts those 2 tabs in and they kind of compression fit in place. However, I do recommend that you put it together and then put a small bead of activator and glue at the very bottom. And those scalloped edges allow you to grab the phone without grabbing the stand. And now, moving on to the next item. The pen and pencil holder. So the previous version of this had 2 large openings and the pens and pencils worked okay, but they kind of went everywhere. So now we have 8 smaller openings with a method to keep them in place much better than before. So what you're gonna find when you order this from me, you're gonna find this in kind of one cohesive package. I might use some cellophane here to, wrap it up. And you wanna get everything out in front of you, that way you have a good roadmap of how to put this together. And here's what you're gonna do. This piece right here is actually just used for shipping rigidity. You're not really gonna need that, so put that off to the side. You're gonna find 3 support pieces with a notch cut in, a larger support piece with 3 notches, and then what you see here in front of you. Of course, this is your wraparound piece that does go together with a slight dovetail joint. Your 2 pieces that are going to go together, and they're going to hide the ugly side. More on this ugly and pretty side later, but just know when you cut things on a laser, the top is going to look great, but the bottom might have some flashback causing some charring. So basically, your first step can be this. You take a small line of CA glue on the solid piece with the 6 cutouts. You're going to then put the other piece on it, making sure that the ugly sides are facing each other. Now you have 2 pieces that look good, and they are adhered together. Now, you're going to want to take this surrounding piece here and join that dovetail together. Give it a good pinch, and it should hold in place pretty well. Take said piece and then put those 6 slots lined up with those 6 tabs. Take your time here, move things around as needed, and you'll find that they fit in pretty nicely. Now, I do recommend gluing this in place. Okay, that's why I'm showing you this video. Well, here's the deal. You can do it this way. You can put the glue down in those tabs and then reattach the collar. And once that's done, you're going to take some of that activator and you're going to spray it down into those grooves where those slots are, and you're good to go. Now, another way to do this, I'm going to show you on the top. Instead of joining those 2 pieces together, what you're going to do, well, actually, first we need to do this. We need to put those slots in. These are going to be the partitions that are going to keep all the pens and pencils more organized. And this fits in really nice. No glue necessary. But the top portion, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to glue those together just yet. We're going to put this down in those slots with, again, the ugly side up. And again, we're going to talk about that later. You're going to take a small dab of CA glue right there on the edge on all 6 of those tabs. And you want to put some activator on, and now that's going to be held in place. Then you take another line of the CA glue on the ugly side, and then place that down exactly where you need it. Be careful to line this up pretty well. And now you're good to go. Let that dry, and you've got yourself a fully assembled pen and pencil holder. This is a pretty slick item, and it actually has a good weight to it as well. And now, for the next one. The large item holder. All right, here's what you can expect when you get this item from me as well. I wrap things up in this cellophane like I said before, and it may vary in color. It may be clear, it might be black, who knows. Either way, I'm gonna rest assured that these items are protected in shipping. And that's what I was talking about, this extra piece. I basically call this the shipping support. And that holds everything together while it's in transit. And you can keep that, do whatever you want to with it. You can throw it out, but hey, there you go. All right, so here you go. This one is pretty simple as well. You've got your hinge piece that actually has 4 areas where it can bend. And then what you see before you. So you're gonna first start out by assembling this dovetail. You wanna give this a good pinch.
every once in a while the tolerances are a little tight than maybe your hands can do, so take a little hammer and just knock it in place. But if you're strong enough, you should be fine. Take the partition and join those together at 90 degrees and slide those in. Should be a nice snug fit. And put that off to the side as well. Now we're going to assemble the top of this item, and again, we're going to put the ugly sides together. But first, we're going to assemble the first piece to the top with the dab of CA glue in those corners like we did at the end of the pen and pencil holder. Again, you don't need a lot of this stuff. You just need just a dot. Let that settle in, activate it up, and then take your time and line up a nice little bead, or you can just do a couple little dots all the way around. Again, you're not going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff with this. This is a stationary item. So when you line this thing up, just make sure you take your time and you're good to go. Don't forget, put your partition in next. And then you're going to slowly put the bottom on, getting everything kind of all in place. And I do the top first because you may need to reach your fingers inside to go ahead and manipulate some of those pieces to get them to fit just right. Back to the same technique before. Heck, you can even use some of that cellophane to wipe off some of that CA glue. Put a little bit more down, aim this thing up just right, and hey, that was easy. And there you go, looks good. I actually tried standing on this and it held my body weight no problem. But now, one of my favorites, what's next, is the everyday carry tray. I love this thing. I have these in multiple spots in my house. They're great for just offloading whatever you do when you get home, with your phone, your keys, your wallet, all kinds of good stuff. Okay, so before we get building this thing, let's talk about this stuff called flashback. You see, it's pretty ugly. It's the underside of when the laser cuts the wood. Now, the top side always looks pretty good, but the underside gets that flashback from the honeycomb tray. Now look here. I've developed a method when I pull these pieces off to tape the tops and then bring them over to the workbench and actually sand the bottoms for you. I don't want this ever being an issue. So this works pretty well, but I will tell you this. You got to be careful because, well, when you do products like this, there is a tendency for them to break. So every one of these that goes out, I put through a stress test. And yeah, some of them don't cut the mustard and those get thrown out. But here's a cool party trick. Look at that. One hand. It just spins right there where I need it. Didn't know this was going to be this easy. It does take some time, believe it or not. But one of the coolest parts about running these pieces that are going to flex into the everyday carry tray through this sanding operation is that the sander does create some vibrations. And those vibrations are a stress test because every once in a while you'll find that, you know, there might be some imperfections in the wood, and there you go. Again, doesn't cut the mustard, it's going in the fire bin. Okay, so back to the assembly. Again, the cellophane, you get it, everything's held in place. Get your pieces out, kind of get them in front of you, and this should look familiar because we just did some sanding on these. How you're going to build this is very similar to the others except for a couple key features. What you want to do is you want to just make sure everything looks good. You're going to be bending this in a little bit and it should work really well. Again, if you guys have any issues with this, feel free to reach out to me via email, Instagram DMs. I will always be on your side and I'll help you with any issues if you do have them, as I think most of my customers can attest. So lay your pieces out, and what I would recommend doing is assembling the bottom first. Okay, here's how we're going to do this. Take those small pieces on the sides and make sure the pretty side is facing outwards on the bottom plate. You're going to just nestle those little tabs in those slots. And once those tabs are in the bottom, you want to carefully put on one of the top frames. Line everything up, and we're starting to see something. Now, this technique I've used before where you just put a couple of dabs on each one. Definitely use that again. Activate those, give a little pressure, and you're good to go. Now, there is a key feature I'm going to show you about this frame. Don't install that just yet. Put that off to the side. You want to flip the whole piece over. You want to slowly put those dots on those tabs as well. Glue that bottom in place. And again, you can use the cellophane to kind of wipe it clean. And then you want to put the bottom plate on to kind of cover up those ugly tabs, giving you a nice surface. All right, line that up at the corners. I like to do that. It gives me a really nice way to get that everything lined up. And now there is a cool thing you can do here. Take the piece and bring it upside down and put that frame on the bottom with the insert that was cut out. You don't need to use this, but I like to do this. Line that up dead center, glue the middle part in, and now you're gonna have a shadow line that's gonna cast at the bottom of this tray that looks pretty neat. But it also has another key feature if you order, well, 2 or more of these things. Once you got that all set up, put the top frame on, and now this is my favorite part of the entire build. Take this, and you wanna make sure that your corners have even spaces. You see this? See those corners? There's even 90-degree pieces, and there's not. It goes in a certain way, and basically you want to take your fingers, kind of fold up the pieces and push it down. Then you're going to hear a nice satisfying click as each piece goes underneath the tab. And that piece we put at the bottom, well, check this out. Like I said, if you have 2 or more, they can actually nest together if that was something you wanted to do. But either way, I really like the shadow line that it casts. Check it out. This is by far, I think, my favorite piece that I make on the laser. It's so cool. I've got these in multiple spots in the house, and I hope you like it. It really is one of the favorite things I've ever made. And if you go down to the website to check out the Living Hinge desk collection, I really feel like you guys are going to know that they're pretty modestly priced. I have them very competitively priced. Considering how much work goes into these, I really want you guys to check them out. They make a great accent to any home. I hope you enjoy.
I mean, this is really cool stuff, and I've gotten some inspiration definitely to go bigger and better than this. I think that maybe making a pretty robust table lamp would be pretty cool. I mean, you can use this application in a lot of things. So I'm gonna start kind of diving into more possibilities of it. And I get questions, Chris, can digital files be available for this? Yes, they will be. About a week from the timestamp of this video's launch date, I will have all these products as digital files in one big bundle. I'm not gonna do them segmented like I do the physical products. Also, if you're looking for the wood that I'm using, I actually sell that too. I sell the 1/8 inch and the 1/4 inch, and this is the best laser cutting wood I have ever used. And I know it's not always available to most people around the country, so I actually sell it too. So if you wanna get started in this kind of thing, I'm your guy. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Stay tuned for the next one. Have a good day. Hey guys, today I'm gonna show you how a few small cuts can absolutely. You know, are most people's outtakes them saying something silly and just laughing off camera? I mean, what exactly is an outtake? Every time people do outtakes, they go, here's some outtakes. And then it's like, hey, today, is that really an outtake? I guess this is really an outtake.